Ladies and gentlemen, we have potentially one of the most unique banners that we have ever had inside Watcher of Realms, which is the Choice Divine Summoning. So this is a 20x rate up on your Divine Summons for Lyra, as well as a legendary hero of your choice. Now, as you can see from my summoning record, I was lucky, or maybe unlucky enough, depending on how you look at it, to pull Lyra. I was hoping for Draylin. We're going to go ahead and pop one more shard here while I have the video going, but I pulled Lyra. I already had a copy of Lyra, so she is now A1. And considering that we still have this banner active and a lot of you folks are going to be getting her, I figured we'd go ahead and walk through, well, Lyra and show you how to build her, show you her kit, all that sort of good stuff. So let's go ahead and find her and talk about her and do a bit of a showcase here. So we're going to be testing her, breaking down all the nuances, all that sort of good stuff. So first of all, let's go ahead and take a look at her talent. She is a fantastic looking hero, by the way. Absolutely sensational. Very, very unique, certainly. And she does actually have a skin, which is the Mistletoe Minx as well, which is probably one of the cooler looking skins inside the game. But her talent, her basic attack has a 40% chance to generate a Cosmic Rift. So the Cosmic Rift mimics the same attack on one enemy in range when the summoner attacks. Now here's what's important. So it also includes basic attack, ultimate, and focus fire attacks launched when Twin Fiend or Pyros activate their Lord skill. So if we look, she is part of the Infernal Blast, so Twin Fiend, Pyros, and Soul Cadence can all be her lords. So essentially the Cosmic Rift can also benefit from the Lord skill, and it can also benefit from her ultimate, which we'll take a look at in a little bit. This hero can maintain up to 2 Cosmic Rifts at the same time. Basic attack also inflicts magic resistance reduction on enemies, which is a minus 30% magic resistance reduction, which is pretty crazy to say the least on a basic attack. Now her basic attack, 120% damage to one enemy. Pretty simple, right? But keep in mind, if you have a Cosmic Rift out, or certainly if you have 2 Cosmic Rifts, this gets significantly stronger. So with simply 1 Cosmic Rift, her basic attack is going to apply magic resistance reduction plus do 240% damage to one enemy on a basic attack. If you have 2 Cosmic Rifts out there, you still get the magic resistance reduction, plus you're getting, what is that, 360% damage to one enemy, which is an incredibly strong basic attack. She's very, very good in that regard. Rift Resonance. When Starfall strikes, Meteorite hits, so that's her ultimate, increases the hero's attack by 35% for 15 seconds and dispels 1 buff from the target. Ladies and gentlemen, she is a big damage dealer. She can also strip off buffs from targets, which is a skill that we need inside this game, especially if you're trying to progress in something like Semrah, right? So Guild Boss 2, we have new guild bosses coming out soon. Basically, anywhere in the game, you can sort of benefit from buff dispels in a lot of situations. So, especially for PvE content, right? Obviously, there's not really PvP content where it's important so far. And I say there's a lot of areas you can benefit from it, but realistically, the most notable area is going to be Semrah, right? So if you don't have the Kagiris or the Talons, or, you know, if you don't want to deal with the RNG of somebody like a Lucius, then Lyra can slot in. You can control when she's stripping, all that sort of good stuff. Now, Celestial Confluence. After the hero and Cosmic Rift deal damage to the same enemy 15 times, increases the hero's damage by 15%, stacking up to 3 times. This bonus decreases by 1 stack when attacking a different enemy. So, if we think about this, it's really just amping up her power when she's dealing with boss-related content, right? Any sort of just one enemy that she consistently targets. She's not necessarily going to be a wave-clearing hero. You know, that's not really her role, right? Which is really seen by the fact that she has a single-target basic attack as well. She's not AoE or anything like that, like a lot of the other mages we see. She is designed to be a single target DPS unit that also brings magic resistance reduction. Now finally, her ultimate, pretty simple. Summons a meteor to deal 700% damage to one enemy in range. Simple as that, right? But keep in mind the Cosmic Rifts can also basically duplicate this. Also, one thing I forgot to say is that her basic attacks, when they're mimicked, only deal 50% damage, so I was a little bit wrong with the math there, but the caveat is her ultimate attacks can be fully duplicated by the Cosmic Rift. So that's pretty cool. And these things last for 18 seconds, by the way. So there's a very solid chance that she's going to have 1 up like most of the fight, and there's a, you know, a decent chance that she's going to have 2 up for most of the fight as well. So that's it. Pretty basic kit. That's how she looks. Awakenings. A1. Using Starfall Strike, so her ultimate extends the duration of all cosmic rifts by 8 seconds, which is pretty cool, right? We're taking that already pretty long duration summon, and we're making it longer, which is awesome. And again, you can control when this is deployed as well, since it's on her ultimate. A2 attack plus 300. A3, when Celestial Confluence reaches full stacks, the damage dealt by cosmic rifts mimic basic attacks increases to 100% of the hero's basic attack damage. And Starfall Strike's Meteor inflicts stun on the target hit, which makes her obviously significantly better for Semrah, right? You can now get stuns out of this hero, and it also makes her far more viable in terms of just large amounts of damage because you're getting your basic attacks fully duplicated as well. So refer to my original arithmetic, and that's what you'll be dealing with. A4, penetration plus 8%. And finally, A5, Starfall Strike ignores 70% magic resistance, but reduces the hero's rage regen by 15%. This is pretty insane. If you have her basic attack up right before you deploy this, and she has that 30% reduction, you're basically doing true damage with her ultimate, which then will also get duplicated by her cosmic rifts, which is pretty crazy. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at artifacts. There's really one of two artifacts you want to use for her, and it's pretty straightforward. So we're going to be running her inside a maxed out tier of Twilight coming from my Ingrid. This is, with a doubt, the best in-slot artifact for her to be using. If you don't have a tier of Twilight, then the Keen Wisdom is going to be another very good way to go. And if you don't happen to have a Keen Wisdom, then your best bet's probably going to be the White Tower Trinket, which is going to be increasing her attack by 12% when deployed. When there are no adjacent allies, she also gains an extra attack speed increase of 20. That's probably not really going to be relevant. Whenever you deploy her, you're going to have somebody with her, right? Shout out to fastidious.gg real quick, by the way. They have the same callouts on their website for the artifacts. Now, in terms of the gear, left-hand side, you're really looking for a couple of just mainstay sets. You're looking for Wicked Vengeance or Warlord, ideally. If you don't have those, then you're looking into Calamity, Annihilating Might, or Whirlwind would be good as well to get the extra attack speed, right? Especially considering that you want her cycling her A1, her basic attack, quite often because of the magic resistance reduction she places. Now, on the right-hand side, best in slot for most people is going to be Soulbound Arcana. If you don't have Soulbound Arcana, you can get away with Hell's Lament. So this is when the ultimate's triggered. It's going to increase her damage and crit damage, right? So it's quite a significant increase, especially if you look at her ultimate. It's only 700 cost. She starts with 400 initial. If you have some rage regen in the team, you can get back around to it quick. So with that in mind, Hell's Lament is a way to go. Cataclysm is also pretty solid as well. But like I say, for 99% of people, especially with the enhancements that we can apply to gear these days, Soulbound Arcana is going to be the way to go. Now, Infernal Roar technically could work as well, but just keep in mind that you're not really going to be benefiting your summons, and you're not really going to be benefiting off of anything besides basics, right? Ageless Wrath, also another pretty decent way to go. You can essentially get her... her crit damage is initially increased by 30%. Then on top of that, after she hits somebody 30 times, it's going to go up to basically like a 60% increase. Now, all that being said, what we're going to be doing here for the gear is just taking off the Sun Wukong gear. So I have rebuilt my Sun Wukong recently, so she's now going to have very decent rage regen, a little bit less attack, and a little bit less crit damage than she would have regularly. This is the build. So we have 19,000 attack, 19,000, almost 20,000 HP. We have 372 on the speed, which brings her to a nice interval of 1.5. We have 104 and 346 on the crit rate and crit damage. And then we have 76.5 on the rage regen. So rage regen rather. So she's going to be cycling through her ultimate pretty quickly. And she is also fully booked out. So especially since I have her awakened, this is going to be more of kind of like a late game showcase. Certainly just keep in mind that, you know, she is most likely going to do good damage unless she's just completely like a not good unit whatsoever, right? So you may not get these exact damage numbers on your particular account, but as I always say, ladies and gentlemen, I am 100% free to play as well. So, you know, anything you see on my account is attainable by the average player, though it may take some luck and it may take some time and knowledge playing the game, of course, right? That's kind of where I'm at. More so the luck, not necessarily the knowledge, but we're going to bring in Lyris, we're going to bring in Elowen, and we're going to bring in Diao-chan for the heals and the rage regen. And then I think maybe we'll just bring like another mage of some sort. Doesn't really matter what. Perhaps like a... I would want to bring in like a Praetus, right? Just to kind of show you the single target damage he can do, since that's very much his specialty as well. I fear that bringing in a Praetus could, you know, perhaps make her look a little bit underwhelming though, but we'll definitely still bring in a Praetus anyways, with the caveat that obviously he is a ancient exclusive lord who is A1 in an absolutely insane build. So this is kind of what we're going to be rocking here. We're also going to bring in Pyros and just kind of do some testing with her duplicates from the Cosmic Rift, essentially. Obviously not going to be doing a full run inside the dragon here, because that's not really what we're here for. Something I want to address real quick while we get this set up is I had a comment recently on my channel that was talking about how I showcased her inside the dragon. Of course, she was going to kill the dragon shield quickly. It's only, you know, dragon 1, all that sort of good stuff. And this was regarding my Semrah video specifically. So I just want to say real quick, the reason I'm in the Dragon's Lair is because, first of all, it's content that a lot of players are going to be continuously trying to beat, right? So people are all the time going to be trying to set new high records here, new personal bests. They're also going to be new players coming into the game, right? We always want the game to be growing, and we always want to be making content that's relevant to the people who need it most. So, you know, in a lot of situations, sure, I could go and showcase her against some of the most end game bosses inside the entire game, right? You know, you could showcase her in Abyss 1, all that sort of good stuff, but at the end of the day, the amount of players that I think are going to benefit from that is a significantly smaller portion than the amount of players that are going to be benefiting from me showcasing her inside, you know, Nightmare 4, right? And the reason for that being is, simply put, the people who are beating up Abyss 1, no problem, aren't going to be sitting here and watching my hero showcase on Lyra, right? Simple as that. There are other content they're going to be consuming. My content, I just got to get my headset charging here real quick. It's giving me an alert saying battery low. But yeah, my content is essentially being made to help the people that are just progressing, maybe newer to the game, all those sorts of good things. Let's go ahead and hop straight into it here. So we have Pyros up. We're going to go ahead and we are going to pop his ultimate here just for funsies. So we can see Lyra obviously is getting pulled into the channeling, and she now pops off. So I would like to zoom in a little bit. You can see we do actually have the 2 Cosmic Rifts up right now. She's actually out damaging Praetus, which is pretty crazy. We're going to go ahead and pop ultimates on both here, as well as the Praetus button, so you can kind of get an idea of how that looks. And she is actually doing insane damage, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to go ahead and pop the Pyros here right away as well, since the dragon's obviously going to be putting up his shield. Now, we're not going to get much damage from her now, but right there, boom, she absolutely decimates the shield, and she gets a nice little spike of damage as well. Now, I'm surprised by this, right? I said bringing in an ancient exclusive lord who's A1 may look bad for her, but she is actually out damaging my Praetus, and I'll show you my Praetus build after this too. Obviously, Praetus, absolutely phenomenal unit, right? There's no arguing that. He's insane. He enables some of the best teams inside the entire game, but that being said, somebody doing a little bit more damage than him in this content is pretty damn impressive, to say the least, right? So she's got a solid like 7 to 8 million damage on him, which is pretty crazy, and we've been popping both of their ults kind of as much as we can as well. I will go ahead and play through the next shield here and see if these two together are able to beat the shield. So we'll try to line up our Pyros ult. I do have Twin Fiend as well, so Twin Fiend would obviously be a better enabler for her. But I just got Twin Fiend earlier today, I think it was. I pulled him from the Legendary Hero Selector. So obviously he's not built, is what I'm getting at. So we're going to go ahead and pop Pyros. The next shield goes up at roughly 245. We're not getting much damage from her currently because she's charging up, and then the Pyros ball kind of unleashed there. We didn't get a huge amount of damage though. Yeah, we're gonna make it through this shield, of course. It's gonna be a bit questionable though. We do still have the magic resistance minus 30 coming from her very consistently as well, which is pretty awesome. So you can see here, even after everybody's had their ultimates popped, once again, she's still out damaging Praetus, ladies and gentlemen. I can't Get over that. That is absolutely insane. We'll go ahead and quit the battle. You can see those damage numbers there. That is pretty crazy. We're going to go ahead and we're going to take her into Semrah. So we're going to go into Guild Boss 2 and kind of show you what she's capable of there. So let's go over to Guild. Let's go to Titanic Runes. Absolutely love this, by the way, where we now have the playtest button, right? So obviously being able to just transition over here, test her out, and see what's good is going to be absolutely sensational. Now, of course, I don't have my Sun Wukong built out, so I am going to have to bring in another stunner so that we don't have to deal with the Saw Blade phase just wiping us out immediately. So I'm trying to find my stunner, who is right there. Helga, her name is? Yeah, Helga. So Helga is going to be our stunner, right? We have plenty of rage regen in here, all that sort of good stuff. We're essentially just going to see what Lyra is capable of doing for damage. So let's go ahead and pause. We'll place down Helga first. I'm not really worried about like min-maxing the placements or anything like that, right? Like that's just not a concern. We'll get Diao Chan placed down. We'll get our Praetus here. And then we'll get our Lyra here. And then we'll throw Pyros, like, well, this doesn't work the best. We don't have really a spot to put Pyros. So Pyros is just going to have to sit this one out, unfortunately. Now, we're going to go to the overall statistics. As you can see so far, Praetus and her are both kind of neck and neck. Once the ultimates are popped, though, so far at least she is taking a very commanding lead. I'm going to go ahead and pop our Helga here. Pretty much perfect timing on that. We're obviously going to start to get some stacks up so that we can, again, not have to deal with his shield absolutely decimating us. Now, again, Lyra is out damaging Praetus even in this content, and they both cycle very, very fast. So obviously the fact that we have Lyra with her rage regen at 70% certainly helps. But that being said, with Praetus, we obviously have the Radiant Erosion, right? So we have the Radiant Erosion stacks on the boss, which are going to be doing a lot of damage. We obviously have him A1 as well, so he's cycling his ultimate pretty quickly, and then we do also have the Praetus button too. So there's a lot that he brings, certainly, but even all that considered, she's still out damaging him, right? It's neck and neck, though. It's neck and neck. They're both at like 10 million damage currently. They both have the Diao Chan inspiration. We're kind of just pushing through this. It is nice because, like I mentioned, and I called it, right? Her Cosmic Rifts, there's almost always two of them up, because it's a combination of how long they last and her attack speed being so high, right? So she's constantly putting out more attacks, which is bringing up more Cosmic Rifts, obviously. And she does very, very, very solid damage. For any sort of a hero to be like on par with my Praetus is impressive, let alone it not being like an ancient exclusive or like an A3 or an A5 hero, right? Like, that's pretty crazy. Now, Praetus is obviously not the be-all end-all for a lot of content. So, for example, my Kagiri and my Sun Wukong out-damage him inside Guild Boss 2, Semrah, but he's still a very, very solid unit who does millions of damage, right? So, he has almost 23,000 attack. He's got very good attack speed, decent rate and damage as well. No rage regen, though, so that's kind of where he's lacking a little bit, right? If we go and take a look at my weeklies, actually. So my Guild Boss 2, I'm ranked number 6 in the clan. You can see Praetus is in here, and overall, he does 296 million damage in a full-length run, which is very, very close to like a Arrogance or a Kagiri, as you can see. My Arrogance being A5, Kagiri being A3. Now, that being said, to have Lyra basically on par at the start, at least with Praetus, is bloody insane, ladies and gentlemen. That's bloody insane. Now, she does also have very decent range for a single target magic damage dealer, right? Basically the same range as the Praetus. We're going to go ahead and go into our single target arena here. I kind of want to test her out inside here. So we're going to go to here. We're going to find, not healers, but we will bring in Diao Chan, and we'll bring in Eliris. And then we'll go to mages. We'll bring in her. Now we're also going to go to fighters. And we're going to bring in Cyrene for some rage regen. And then who else do we want? We would want maybe like a tank, right? Just so that we can focus on having the tank take all the damage. And then we don't need to worry about you know, any other DPS units getting in there and taking away damage from our Lyra. Obviously, the arena battles also scale based on your BP, so testing them in the defense like this is a very solid way to go. It means that you can really get like a decent idea of where your team's going to land, and you don't really need to worry too much about how strong the other guy is. So I like testing my teams out like this, as you guys know if you watch the channel for some time. So let's go ahead and place down our Diao, probably right here. Right, we'll get her doing her inspiration. We'll then get our Lyris out. I'm just going to wait for Cyrene to keep popping her ultimate here. We're going to get down our Broke here. And then we'll place our Lyra right over here, I think, is where we'll go. So this is very similar to like the Watcher team composition that you'll see in the regular arena, minus the fact that we're not using Watchers, right? So about an 80k pop there, right? So we're coming in. Some pretty decent damage. She's starting to chunk down the enemies pretty quickly. Now, I also just want to say I don't think Lyra's going to be like a super good hero for the arena. You know, I don't think that's really where she sits. You don't see like esotericist teams anymore, right? So she doesn't really have the faction for it or anything like that. There we go. Look at that. Look at that. That is like pretty much some Sun Wukong type stuff that you would see there, right? That's like maybe not quite like Semrah levels of clearing the wave, but that amount of burst damage in that quick a time is very, very, very solid. Now, you can see she is cycling her ult pretty quick here too, so pretty much right after we get the first enemy down, we'll be able to go ahead and boom into the second enemy. We obviously pop the ultimate, and then as you can see, since she has the 2 cosmic rifts up, she's basically triggering that ultimate twice again, which is just absolutely insane, right? Absolutely insane. Now, her rage regen combined with the low ultimate cost combined with the Lyris in here is going to be airless. I'm just calling her whatever name comes to mind, honestly, at this point. But those 3 factors combined is just going to be meaning that we can cycle through these ultimates very quickly as well. And you know what? I'm now kind of tempted to see if we can mess around with like an I can't even talk, apparently. I'm tempted to see if we can mess around with an Esotericist team and see what we can pull off inside the single target arena. So I think we'll actually go ahead and do that here. I have some of the good lords and everything like that from the Esotericist faction. There we go. I managed to say it that time, ladies and gentlemen. Are you proud of me? I hope so. I have some of the good lords, right? So we'll be able to really just test and see what we can figure out. Though it's not the single target arena time, so we're going to have to just make do with some of the defensive battles. So let's go in here. We're going to go to Esotericist. We're going to bring in her, obviously. We could bring in Eloin for our rage regen instead of airless, but the problem with that is airless is better for healing against single target arena because she does a better job, right? She just does a better job. In terms of like other DPS or other enablement, I'm thinking we have a couple of options. So we could, of course, bring in Beatrix. We're going to bring in Venoma, who's an absolute trash hero, but is basically mandatory in regards to the Lord skill, right? So very, very strong Lord skill. We're going to bring in Airless once again. We have Nurja as well, and then we would want some sort of a ground unit. So we're looking either a fighter, a tank, or a deep tactician unit, rather. But preferably an Esotericist. We could bring in like Merit. He's a very high cost, obviously. Preferably some sort of a low cost fighter is really where we would be looking, like somebody around like 12 or 13. We could bring in a Valera, right? That could work pretty well, especially since we have the heals and whatnot. We may just keep it simple, though, and bring in a Cyrene again. I think that'll be our best option. Now, you can see we don't have much BP on this team, certainly, so you'll have to kind of tweak this depending on, obviously, like what level of enemies you're going against, but just being able to test this and kind of see what's going on will be perfect. So we'll get Cyrene down. We'll get her generating cost as quick as possible, which will give us our Lyra very quickly as well. So, boom. There we go. We're going to get her placed down here. And we are just going to let her go through and kind of basic attack through the first wave. Now, this is, you know, the caveat, just because I know someone might say something. This is not like a full guide or showcase, obviously, on how to beat single target arena with these heroes, right? You may need to optimize it depending on who you're fighting against. This is just going to be my showcase, essentially. Now, we don't have any Cosmic Rifts up here, so we are going to pop the ultimate, but it's going to be significantly weaker than we would have seen the other rounds. So that's something to consider. We got a little bit of bad RNG there with the Cosmic Rifts being down. So, you know, that's part of her kit that will affect things as well. You can't always depend on the Rifts being up, right? Also, another thing to mention is obviously we had Diao-chan in here on the other waves, whereas we don't have Diao-chan now. We're going to go ahead and pop our Nerja ultimate so he can start getting some DPS down there as well. Just doing big numbers to these bosses. We get some burning up. We get some big DPS there. And then, you know, if you had your Venoma built for damage, you'd probably have some better DPS coming in on that front as well. But basically, he just comes in, makes everybody's skills cycle a little bit quicker. All that sort of good stuff. Now, I think this wave should be pretty quick because we do have, obviously, Nerja popping his ultimate. We get enough hits coming in from Lyra where she's able to get up a Cosmic Rift. So we get 3 big hits from the ultimate there, and then we manage to take down the enemy. So I will say, real quick, like just to call this out, cycling those enemies that quick, right? That's like as fast as you're getting unless you have either Sun Wukong, Kagiri doing Kagiri things when he's awakened, or Sithra, right? You basically need those options to get through those waves that quickly, and it's very hard to find an alternative option if you don't have some of those heroes. So we're going to let Nerja take care of the first 2 enemies here, essentially. Obviously, Lyra should be able to get her Cosmic Rifts up with some of her basic attacks there. We're going to go ahead and pop the ultimate, and then her combined with Nerja, we should take this guy down fairly quickly as well. Obviously, a little bit slower on this particular cycle, right? So, you know, not quite as good there. And then Nerja's ultimate just happens to go off right now as soon as we finish him off, which is a bit of a shame. Kind of an interesting team, though, as well, where you can't really see it because of my head, but we literally only have 2 ultimates that we need to worry about popping. So, you know, you're not sitting here stressing about when to pop the ultimate or anything like that. It's like, is it available? Yes. Okay, we pop it. We're going to go ahead and pop it now, actually, because we're in a bit of trouble here. So, yeah. As you can see, this team probably isn't the best way to go. I think you'd want to bring in some sort of like a tank unit there instead of the Cyrene, but, you know, at the end of the day, it kind of is what it is, right? So, Valeria, or Valara, I'm trying to think of which name it is. I always get the 2 of them mixed up. So, this chick here, Valeria, she could work very well as well. We see her tanking a lot inside the arena. I do have her A2, so I may, you know, go ahead and do a showcase on her at some point. One of my first legendaries, so definitely a soft spot in my heart. But to get back to the particular topic at hand here, let's go ahead and give Lyra some ratings, right? So Drake's Chasm, definitely a 5. Faction Trial, a 5. Titanic Runes, I'm giving her a 5, right? Like, let's just kind of summarize what she does. She does insane damage. She's a summoner. She has buff strips. Insane damage, right? She brings magic resistance reduction, so she's enabling all of your other magic DPS units. Fantastic. Void Rift, a 5. Arena single target, absolutely a 5. You've seen how good she performed there. Immortal Codex, probably a 4. Tower of Deception, I think she's a 5. Guild Wars, she's kind of one-dimensional for Guild Wars, right? Like, she brings a lot of damage. It's magic damage. She enables magic damage, but she doesn't really do anything else that's special, right? Like, you know, her summons are nice. She can help take down enemy mobs and whatnot, so I'll give her probably a 4. She does have decent BP as well, so we'll give her a 4 in Tide. Gear Dungeon 2, probably also a 4, very solid DPS unit. Artifact Material Raid, a 5 in my opinion. Gear Raid 1, she's going to be a 3. She obviously does very good magic damage, but she's single target, which is not something we want inside Gear Raid 1. She's going to be kind of a 4 for both of the XP and the gold raids as well, so that's where I'm going to rate her. Gear Dungeon 1, probably a 4. Gear Raid 1, I'm going to give her a 4. She definitely doesn't deserve a 5. Gear Raid 3, she's going to be like a 3. Maybe a 2, right? She's not the magic type, or she's not the damage type that you want. Arena Anti-Air DPS, also a 3. You're not going to be using her there. Malarik's Halls, I could see her getting a 4. And then Arena AoE DPS, probably also a 3. I mean, it's in the name, right? You need AoE DPS. She is a single target damage dealer. It doesn't really make much sense for you to be trying to use her inside the AoE arena. Now, while I go ahead and switch my gear back over to the appropriate heroes, make sure to go ahead and hop into the Discord, which is linked in the description of this video. So I do have a chat in there that's dedicated specifically to Watcher of Realms, so you can hop in there, you can brag about your pulls, you can ask questions if you have them, you can tell me I'm wrong in my videos, all that sort of good stuff. It's very, very interesting. We have a fantastic community being built up for both Raid Shadow Legends as well as Watcher of Realms in there, so make sure to go ahead and hop in, like the video, comment on the video, and subscribe to the channel if you're enjoying the content. We are almost at 3,000 subscribers, and I have plans to launch merch when we do reach that 3K, so very exciting stuff. Thank you guys all so much for watching, though. I'll see you next time.